Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
National interest this week stays close to politics. You know, we love politics. In fact, if you see some of these print mugs, you will also find that we say because politics matters, because politics does matter. So when we look at the farm protests, the issues arising out of it, and also the manner in which Modi government is dealing with it, we are talking essentially pure politics. So where does Modi government stand today, and where do the farm protests stand, and where does national politics stand, particularly with parliament session on? What is the way forward? What are the options? So we start with 6 things first, which we think are facts. I mean, you can always disagree with me, but these 6 in our view are facts. So what are these? Number 1, that farm laws are by and large or mostly good for the farmers. At least in my view and analysis, I see nothing wrong or nothing harmful for the farmers in the farm laws. Number 2, we have come to a stage when whether these laws are good or bad doesn't matter. Either side will believe what they want to believe. So there is very little scope now for debate about farm laws in detail, whether they are good or they are bad. Even the quality of debate in parliament so far in Rajya Sabha has not been so much about the merit as about rhetoric. So in politics, it doesn't matter what the facts are. What matters is what are the facts that people believe to be facts. In this case, the protesting farmers are not going to be convinced that these farm laws are good. So that's the second point. 3, government is right when it says that what is the continuing protest today is not just about farm laws. Because if it was just about farm laws, then the promise of deferring them for 1.5 years and meanwhile talking and also MSP guarantee etc. should have calmed these protests. So even after January 26, when the government had hoped that protests will weaken, they've actually strengthened. So this tells you that this is not just about farm laws. What is it about? It is about politics. And you might say, the government might say that this is an effort to weaken them or bring them down, but this is perfectly legitimate and kosher in a democracy. What is a democracy without politics? What is politics if it's not about getting the guy who's in power out of power and taking that position yourself? Politics is the most competitive game, the most fun, and I would also say in many ways the most fair, because it's only the side that is smarter, more hardworking, tougher, stronger, willing to make sacrifice, skillful, that wins. What is the next point? Number 4, government is right when it protests that the current ongoing agitation is not about farm bills. Nobody is now talking about MSP subsidies because MSP government is willing to guarantee. Plus there is nothing in the farm bills. I have read them inside out, upside down, bottom up. I find nothing in the farm bills that says that MSP will be withdrawn. Now to say that, oh, but that is the intention of the government, that will be a bit like Madhya Pradesh police saying that this poor Munawar Farooqi did not tell a joke that offended the Hindus, but we think he had intended to do so. So you can't act on intention. But today it doesn't matter. It's not to do with MSP, it's not to do with subsidies, all that can be guaranteed. The laws are not saying that's going to change, but that is not calming this anger right now. If this is not about farm laws, what is it about? So very simply, it's about politics. And why not? We are a democracy. What's a democracy without politics? It's perfectly kosher, normal, legitimate to play politics in a democracy. Because how do you come to power? You come to power by getting the other guy or the other woman out of power. And in politics, all tactics, Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed, as we say in Hindi, are legitimate. They are all kosher. And that's why we enjoy politics so much and we appreciate politics so much, because without politics there is no democracy. Politics is essential to democracy. And politics is a game which I would say is the most fun and also the most fair, because the side that is smarter, that is stronger, that is tougher, that is more skillful wins. So right now what's happening is that an entire lot of opposition, not just the parties, but also a lot of social, ethnic and caste groups which feel disempowered after the rise of the Modi-Shah BJP, they are coming together. So this is a political fight between the Modi-Shah BJP and these forces. It's perfectly fine and perfectly normal and perfectly kosher in a democracy. Then number 5. Now this is something that I am saying with care, but I mean it and I will explain it. Number 5, the fact is that as far as farm laws are concerned, Modi government has already lost the battle. I will explain to you. In fact, this is the one aspect that I will go into in a little more detail. And the 6th point is, it is now up to Modi government and the BJP to either let it blow up into something more complicated, into a political war that then continues on, because these things then acquire a pace and momentum of their own and you can't put them down so easily. So the choice is theirs. Either they let this fester, and this will fester till UP elections in 2022 and maybe onwards after that, and if they think they can handle it, it's up to them. They also have to weigh what the costs will be in terms of national unity, national stability, etc. Or their other choices, do they want to cut their losses, or as they say in American English, get off the curb, and if so, how to do it. That is the discussion about. Now I know that many of you, particularly those of you who support Modi government, you will latch on to the point number 5, where I said emphatically that as far as the farm laws are concerned, Modi government has already lost the battle. Why do I say so? Look at the facts. Modi government has unilaterally conceded that for 18 months they will put these laws in abeyance. Count 18 months from now. 18 months from now will be well after Uttar Pradesh elections next year. You will then be getting into next phase of elections, which are the bellwether elections, the big ones. Those are Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh. That is a year after the completion of 18 months of this period of deferral of these laws. Most unlikely that Modi government will then open or reopen that front again once it's closed. Then within 18 months of these laws, the period of deferral ending, within 18 months will be the next general election, and Modi government will already be in the last 1/3 into its tenure. That is not the time when you push such a major reform, that too when you've already conceded an 18-month deferral. So that 18-month deferral, the guarantee of MSP in writing, that's what Modi government has said again and again. These have now conceded the essential demands of the farmers. So as far as the essence of the farm laws is concerned, that battle has been lost. Now the question is, how does the Modi government retreat without looking like it's retreating or it's accepting defeat? Because if that happens, then after this all other reforms will be threatened, because you will have protest over labor reforms, although some of those have had a wider political acceptance in parliament. But once the opposition sees Modi government as weak, then there will be open season. And why should there not be? The fact is, when UPA was in power, NDA opposed all their good policies as well as bad policies. But good policies, Indo-US nuclear deal, taking America as a strategic ally, multi-brand retail FDI, FDI in other areas, FDI in insurance, FDI in pension funds. BJP opposed all of that tooth and nail. When it came to power, it did the opposite. So what you did, the other side can also do. So when they see you as weaker, then they will go after all other reform, and that reform will then be from labor laws to the listing of the LIC. That will then start a new political battle over economic policies. Now, how has the Modi-Shah BJP got itself into this jam? How did they come here? They came here because they made a series of tactical errors. The first tactical error, as we look backwards, we can speak from hindsight, we are commentators. When we look backwards, the first tactical error was to bring in these laws through ordinances. Now, these are massive laws which have impact on the lives of the largest section of your population that any law can impact. That is nearly 60% of India. You don't bring laws like this through ordinances. We know that these laws have been discussed, these reforms have been discussed, so right thing would have been to start those discussions, maybe with the Prime Minister speaking several times over and letting this discussion sort of spread out and bringing it into Parliament. Maybe the motivation at that point was that the economy was really going down the tube, so this will give the world an impression that Modi government was really reforming India's economy, the big ticket, big bang, whatever you call it, reform was happening, so bring in the money into India. But you know that road to disaster is paved with good intentions. So even if intentions were good, to bring in a law like this through ordinances or a set of laws like this through ordinances was fraught with risks, and those risks are now coming into play. This could have been done by co-opting some opposition parties, some farmer groups. That wasn't done. Second, the way the bills were pushed through in Rajya Sabha, in the din. Now, we know that in the past also, laws are passed in the din. And I will give you a story. When Vajpayee government wanted to allow private sector and FDI into insurance, they wanted to amend the Insurance Regulatory Authority Act in Parliament. So once again, there was trouble because many of BJP's allies, that was a genuine NDA government because BJP did not have a majority. So many of the BJP allies did not want to vote for it. So Mr. Vajpayee asked Sushma Swaraj, who was then Parliamentary Affairs Minister, and she said, Sushma ji, pass क्यों नहीं कराती? आप Parliamentary Affairs Minister हैं. तो Sushma ji said कि अटल जी कैसे करा दूं? पार्लियामेंट में हल्ला हो जाएगा. So Vajpayee ji said, अरे हल्ला हो जाएगा तो हल्ले में करा दो. कितने कानून हल्ले में पास होते हैं? I can also tell you that Arun Shourie was witness to it. कितने कानून हल्ले में पास होते हैं? So Sushma Swaraj said, हल्ले में पास तो करा दूं मैं अटल जी, लेकिन किंतु तब जब मेरी कन्विक्शन उसके अंदर हो, that I can have it passed in the din, but that's only if I have conviction. So if a lot of people don't have conviction in something and that conviction is not built by the political leaders and yet you pass laws in the din. Now even passing the insurance law or 1991 reform, it scared a bunch of people, but they were in hundreds, thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe lakhs. I mean, you really want to stretch it, you can say millions. But in this case, you are dealing with more than 500 million people. And that is the issue with the farm laws, and that is the issue with passing these through the ordinance route and through the Rajya Sabha route. Because when you pass it like this, it looks like, to people who don't know, because these are long laws, it's not easy to read them. And I can promise you, if you go and check among protesters, very few may have read the laws or understood what these mean. They believe somehow that this will take the MSPs away and this will change the way that they've got used to living. The way to do it would have been to convince them that it was actually important for them to change the way they've been living with agriculture, that it is definitely good for them to change the way they do their farming. But that wasn't done. Then in the process, next point, tactical errors, BJP kept on losing allies. Akali Dal in particular, and even JDU does not seem really committed to this. Because in a situation like this, you need allies to go out. Today you have a situation where in Punjab, no BJP leader is willing to go and publicly, openly back the laws or make a case for the laws. even in Uttar Pradesh or in Haryana, in the Jat areas where these laws are being protested against, that is Western UP and Haryana, there is no leader from the BJP that's today able to go there in public and make a case for these laws. Not even in Western UP, where BJP has a bunch of important Jat MPs. In Haryana, of course, they lack Jat MPs. There are only two, but they are also not willing to go out and make a case for these laws. So BJP is without spokespersons, without allies among the populations that are the angriest. So where does the story go from here? So there are several possibilities. One is that government will tire these protesters out. Until now, that does not seem to be a likelihood, not at least soon. Because even if you wait till March end, when the Rabi harvest work would begin, most families will have spare manpower, because it is people from UP and Bihar who will come and harvest their fields. Most families, at least in Punjab and Haryana and Western UP, will have somebody to spare who can come and sit on the protests. So don't count on this melting away. And remember, April is when the peak of harvest comes. April is still almost 100 days away. So you don't want this festering for 100 more days, because you don't know, when so many people are sitting on protest, what can go wrong. Imagine if on January 26, Delhi police had really opened fire. What could have been the consequences of that? So tiring them out does not seem to be an option. Number two, that Jats will be co-opted, that is Jats of Haryana and Uttar Pradesh. That is a possibility. That's a possibility also, because they see the difference. The difference, you see, today any politician who goes to Singhu, where people from Punjab are sitting, that politician is laughed away from their stage. No politician is allowed to come to their stage or even meet them there. Ravneet Singh Bittu of the Congress tried to go there, but he was thrown away. On the other hand, everybody is going to Ghazipur and meeting Rakesh Tikait and his people. So much so that even Sukhbir Singh Badal of Akali Dal is not going to Singhu to meet his fellow Sikhs, but he is going to Rakesh Tikait, because you can see that that group is more open to talking politics, more open to talking politicians. So once again, because we believe in politics, we also know that without politicians, there can be no conflict resolution. So maybe you can go and make a deal with them, but then what will happen? Because what can happen then is that what is left over is the most dangerous consequence of this agitation, which is that it becomes localized in Punjab, it gets into Punjab's folklore, and a tragedy which we thought we had concluded, finished in 1993, gets revived now. So it's one thing to say that, oh, Canadians are doing it, overseas Sikhs are doing it, Khalistani groups are doing it, but the fact is that those Khalistani groups were not able to get 2 lines of news coverage anywhere. Today, by talking about them all the time, we have brought them on the front stage. And what happens now is, any effort that corners the Sikhs, that will strengthen the radicals, play into the hands of Pakistan. This is also a new world. It's also a new America. India's politics, direction of India's politics or direction of Indo-US relations will not be set by Kamala Harris's niece, no matter what tweets she writes or what interviews she gives. But the fact is that this Biden administration is more likely to talk about issues elsewhere, issues of civil rights, issues of public protests, than Trump administration did. You've already seen their response to the coup in Myanmar. So one response could be, as our external affairs minister keeps on saying, that this is not the India of the past. This India will push back. We are even pushing back again Rihanna. I mean, how much can we trivialize ourselves? Nevertheless, you can push back, but you push back at Biden's America, Biden administration's America. You are already at half a war with China. Forget Pakistan. You are at half a war with China. Russia and China are now connected like this, and you can see it in everything that the Russians say, whether it's vis-a-vis India or China or America, so much so that even Biden is trying an outreach to Russia right now. But there is a real danger of being left friendless, which is not something that India wants at this point, not just for strategic reasons, but also for economic reasons. So what is the way forward from here? Number one, I'd say don't fight Punjab and don't fight this battle in Punjab, because then the law of unintended consequences can take you where you don't want to go. Number two, find a way of resolving agricultural laws in a way that you don't concede full defeat, because if that happens, then everything that the BJP has proposed on reform will also come under attack. BJP can continue winning elections all over the country through Hindu-Muslim polarization, but from this reform process and from this reform politics, what will remain is what is the worst part of it, which is polarization, anger, and also a Hindu-Sikh polarization. What was good, which is reform and a new optimistic, upbeat mindset, that will disappear. That is the last thing that India needs right now. Number three, and that is a tricky one, what this situation calls for is political sophistication and skilled governance, both of which the Modi-Shah BJP has not displayed so far. What they have shown, on the other hand, is skilled politics, because they keep on winning elections, and governance in their case rides on that political clout and their ability to win elections and the numbers. So with that, you can get away with something like demonetization, but you fail to get away with that on the land acquisition law. Similarly, you are in trouble just using your clout and no charm and no sophistication and no skill, no persuasion, no marketing on your farm laws. So to go forward from here, the BJP has to realize that they cannot now work by numbers and clout and executive orders, nor can they carry on by headline management. And the kind of headline management they are doing right now is very dangerous, because they are trying to shift it from an economic issue, from a farm reform economic issue, to a national unity issue. National unity was never in question. It is the BJP which is snatching this defeat from the jaws of one political controversy, because the last thing India wants now is to fight one more war over national unity, because that is not how this story started out. That is not how this story should end.